Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Deep Thoughts. I feel like this is almost like a special report. Let's make it a special report because I can retire it at any time. Won't screw up the number set. This is going to be about doom and gloom, right? My God. This is going to be an essay on pretty much an American perspective. I can only assume from some of the conversations I see from the European Union or whatever. There's a bit of this over there as well, but I really can't vouch for anything over there. Just in America. My American perspective is based on having grown up in the Midwest and have several friends still there, listening to their concerns, being on the West Coast, listening to our concerns, and then having friends kind of spread across the country a little lighter in all four corners of this United States of America. Watching, sort of the fake news, and boy, is it fake. Exacerbate the situation so everyone feels horrible. Now, for a lot of you, this will just be some relief that someone else is talking about this from maybe a slightly different perspective. This is one of my famous Herrera Esteli smokes. It usually makes a pretty damn good show. Just keep your fingers crossed. So here's the genesis of this episode. I keep walking around, and either I'm finding people who are euphoric about life and feel good about this life, and it honestly doesn't really have to do with their political affiliation. And then I find these folks that are doom and gloom, and it's regardless of affiliation. I know some people that wanted their candidate to get into presidency here in the United States, and he did. And there's, in their opinion, he's kicking ass and taking names. And finally, the first president in 100 years to actually do what he says within the first week. So happy about that, and turns right around and says, "Oh, we're doomed." Man, I don't get that. I don't get that at all. But what I will say is I did an episode on law of attraction. And if there is ever a law of attraction part 2, it's going to be this episode. And let's get into it. I always remind everyone on this show that human beings always like to utter that life isn't fair. We're always hearing people say that. And at times we actually feel that, regardless of how unbelievably omnipotent your brain is about the universe. And really it's because things don't go our way. Right? That's when we say that. Now, some people have tragic situations happen, and it is very difficult to get into those type of conversations saying it is fair because anything can happen. No one wants to hear that when they've lost something, so obviously don't try to pass that conversation on to them during those horrible moments. But what if the universe gives you exactly what you want? Within reason. You sit around and feel all negative and mopey and find religious mechanisms or political mechanisms to feel really upset about the way things are. And the universe just goes, well, there's an infinite level of possibilities in this big, giant, three-dimensional pachinko game. You're one of the balls, and you seem to be resonating this need for doom and gloom. That's really where you want to be. You want to be a drama queen? Fine. We are going to load your fucking life up with so much drama, you won't know what to do. And by the way, for every molecule of drama that you attract to yourself, your life expectancy, your LE, goes down. And your will to live goes down. Because you're just trying to attract shit to your life. But doom and glooming yourself. You can tell my attitude is going to be fairly strong in this. The subtext, if it's not already pretty much on point, is knock it off. Knock that shit off. Stop moping. Stop reading into negativity. Stop trying to attach everything negative and then patting yourself on the back. There was this old situation I was in as a kid, and it was All of us kids would be in the neighborhood trying to do something, build a fort, do something. And there'd always be that punk-ass kid off to the side saying how it wasn't going to work and, just predicting doom and gloom on us. And all we needed was an extra hand to get the fucking thing to work. But the kid's off to the side, not participating, not helping, and just predicting doom and gloom. And by him not contributing, sometimes we would fail. But he felt like fucking Nostradamus, when he is the fucking problem, right? Now, that's a groupthink situation. We needed a group to work together to make this happen. But I'm going to tell you right now, you are your own group when you talk about your own life, when you feel out the universe every day. I have a powerful episode, I believe, called Dreamscaping. And it has to do with the fact that when you are asleep, you are no longer bound to this mortal coil like you were when you were awake. And your soul and your journey in this universe is pretty much a free-flowing vehicle. And you choose by way of the attitude that you put your head down on that pillow at night, which vector you're going in. Fear, dominance, destruction, doom, excitement, invention, reinvention, discovery. Law of attraction is not just some, low-level subject you covered in philosophy class. It is a real deal situation. I believe it is the exact way the universe works. Neural peptides in your brain seem to completely understand. When you're constructing a sentence and saying things like, I'm not going to be fat anymore, indirectly you're telling yourself that you're fat. Instead of saying, well, I'm glad I'm not fat anymore. I'm glad I lost that weight. I'm glad I'm in shape. I'm glad I'm in shape. Doesn't matter if you're 800 pounds. Say, I'm glad I'm in shape. And then in your brain, you need to see the image of yourself that would be the case if you were at the ideal health that you want to be at. And your neural peptides start generating. They're like stem cells in your brain. And they deploy into your body, and they begin to make you whatever you envision yourself as deep down inside in your id. But you can't get to your id if you keep doing passive-aggressive statements to yourself like, I'm not going to be fat anymore. You deserve more than doom and gloom when you wake up in the morning. We've had human beings on this planet constrained in every conceivable manner known to man, and they've escaped those constraints. Male, female, child, adult, elderly. We've always found some case where someone got away from whatever was making them, whether it be a literal kidnapper, to a bad job, to a bad marriage, to a bad situation at home. Tough college, first 2 years of college kicks every kid's ass until they kind of figure out how it works and how they should get up and go to bed, and they get rid of all those old friends that they grab when they serendipitously walked into the college. They find out that counting their beers doesn't help their grade point average. Part of growing up as a society is to control this kind of stuff, right? It really is. Now, there's two ways to do this, right? I've been taking a more active role in the secondary suggestion I'm going to make, because I've been doing the first suggestion I'm going to make pretty much my whole life, which is you have to be a positive person around negative people sometimes to get them to see the light. But, there's that old saying, a person is, dragging everyone down will seldomly be a person you could ever drag up, right? They have to make this decision within themselves that their mopey attitude is something that they have to change, right? Every psychologist will tell you they have to want to change, otherwise it's never going to happen. Now, I will tell you that there's two formulas or two levels to that first solution about being positive in the world, living by example. If you just walk into a crowd of people that are having a struggling situation or struggling with the situation, or you have a friend that's struggling and you're bouncing around all the time and your life is always good, they might grow to resent your almost involuntary ability to live in a better world. But when you sit down with people and you engage them and you talk to them and you really empathetically care about how well they're doing, you're not even worried about sympathy, because that's sort of you're pitying someone feeling. No, pretend like this is you. Pretend like this is your brother, your sister, someone who's always treated you exceptionally well. Get into their life apply your skill sets to their life and get into how they're forming their perspectives. And then share with them how you might see what they're seeing a little bit different. Right? The age-old glass, half empty, glass half full. Teach them how you would perceive things as a glass half full. And believe me, you can potentially change their lives. Now, the other part of it is you have to increase your frequency with an individual who's struggling. Now, for those of you who've done this, you all know about the single white female problem where you'll have a person latch onto you, and it would seem as if they can't breathe without being in your presence. That can get dangerous depending on how much time you have to contribute to the situation. But I have very good friends of mine right now. In fact, I got 2 buddies of mine, and the reason why I know one of the 2 is because there was a situation where one was incarcerated and one was the guard at the prison. And he kept talking to this other guy and just saying, look, you seem to be really intelligent. I mean, like, super intelligent. You speak clearly. You have a great mind. I mean, a scientific mind, a philosophical mind. You're totally awake. What are you doing here? And it was a petty thing. It wasn't anything major. But he was in there for a few months, and he says, when you get out of here, don't come back. Because you're way too goddamn smart to have anything to do with this place. And the way the story goes, I've never really asked him in major detail about what happened, but as I had it told to me by another person who brought me the other 2 guys as friends, they were, they said it took, a few sessions to kind of shake it out of him. And, prison will make you hard until you understand where you are, and you can't show any weaknesses and that kind of stuff. You don't know if you're getting played by a guard or if you don't know if the guy's genuine. Obviously, at some point, very quick in the conversation process, they figured out that both of them were very genuine. And my buddy who was inside popped out and became a model citizen. And I mean model citizen, right? The smartest people I know on planet Earth. I think this guy is one of the smartest people on planet Earth. It's awesome. So anyway, that was an investment. A very aggressive approach, and because of the incarceration and the job, there was close proximity for these 2 to meet on a regular basis. You may or may not have that ability with someone who's out there. And you know what? You may be struggling with this and you don't have any ability to do this for someone else. But I tell you what, I tell a little story about how to raise your kids in my parenting episode, and you can do the trick on yourself. It goes something like this. Parents, when you have a kid, you'll understand that psychologists are screaming and yelling, don't tell your kids no, a lot, because it just teaches them that they're in a little prison in their own house and it's all rule-based, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, obviously there's a time when you got to discipline your child and there's a time when you can relax. But what I do with kids is I reverse the equation on them, which is something I learned from growing up in the Midwest. I don't even talk about this on point in the Midwest, but they do it all the time, which is you teach your children how to raise their children from the age that they can understand the spoken language that you live in. You say, when you have a little girl or a little boy, you can't let them put their finger in the outlet. And now all of a sudden, you're not telling your child no, but you're passing down a rule, hey, don't put your finger in the outlet because it'll shock you and hurt you. And so my little daughter, she, learned all the rules about being a little girl and then being a little, young adult and such by having the rules set up in her mind. So when she has kids, it's all automatic. But she became the authoritarian figure in the equation. She's pretending how to be an adult to raise her child, and then she's following the rule herself. You understand? I didn't tell her no. I told her that if she has a child, she needs to make sure the child understands this rule. So, you can do that to yourself. If you're totally depressed and you're in this doom and gloom thing and you can sense it and you're like, fuck, I don't want to be like this. You can just say to yourself, well, how would you talk to a friend who's moping around like you are? What would you say? In fact, someone you really value in this world, and maybe even think they're at the precipice of taking their own life. And you go, well, that would be a silly waste of a life. And then you have to reflect on your own life and go, well, my life's just as valuable, probably more valuable if it's your life, hopefully. And you can talk yourself off of a ledge. And the ledge doesn't have to be a precipice of life and death, but it could just simply be you're waking up in the morning and you are choosing what frequency you're going to attract to your life. One of the most challenging things, depending on where you are in life, and I've been here a couple times in my lifetime, is trying to find a job. There's nothing more frustrating than knowing that you have exceptional talents that are worth millions, if not billions of dollars, and you're trying to get folks to understand it. And you go into interviews, and invariably there's either two things that happen if you don't get the job, if you're lucky enough to get the interview. The worst one is talking to someone who's less qualified than you are, and they can't evaluate your higher skill sets because they don't have the ability to perceive what makes you special, right? It's like when I was Electronic Arts once, and I was doing some internal movement within the company, and this kid comes in and interviews me about making video games. He's really being cocky and trying to say, well, what games have you made? Da-da-da-da. And I'm naming off everything I've done and the multiple disciplines I've done, and he'd made up his mind beforehand that somehow I wasn't qualified without ever talking to me. And I finally looked at the guy and I said, well, who the fuck are you? Like, what have you done? What department are you in? What video games have you made? And he was some pissant from QA. In fact, he wasn't even part of the QA that I had used for years to hire all my people. Really funny. This kid thought he had the chops to interview me. Be like me interviewing Donald Trump about how to sell real estate. I don't know what to ask the guy. I don't know. Show me a building you bought and restored. I don't know. But you go out and you look for jobs, and either they don't reply to you at all, which I've had plenty of that. When the dot-com bust happened in 2002, I put out my resume to every company on planet Earth, and they were busy laying off all their employees. So everyone's like, resume? What, are you kidding me? We're trying to clean house. And so I had radio silence from probably April 1st, 2002 to, I don't know, probably late 2003. I started finding a few gigs. So I luckily had a pretty good savings at the time, so it was fine. But it was interesting. And so what I ended up doing with my time is I invented a product that I ended up selling. And I put all my clients on it, and I proved that it could work. It was extremely fast. That it was a platform for Apache. I just didn't sit around on my ass. It was funny. But let me share a little vignette on that particular moment in my life. It was funny. I got hired on April 1st at EA, and I got laid off on April 1st at EA. It was funny. And, after I did my last run with them, it was 3 years of just the most grueling, $300 million project. It just tore all of our souls out, and it was just, I could write a book about it. So I came home, had money in the bank, wasn't really worried about existing, and I said, you know what, I've got a bunch of games I haven't played for 3 years. So I'm going to, because I used to review games for about 5 years up to the point I went into this really intense division at EA and lost my life to it. And so I came out and I was playing video games. I was like, look, man, I'm just going to chill. I just need to chill. I haven't really taken a break in my entire lifetime. Let's do this. I'm probably like 33. I was probably 32 at the exact moment that happened. Been working since I was 17 in corporate, computer world. And eventually my girlfriend at the time came in. After about 30 to 40 days, she comes into my place. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing? I was stunned. I was like, what are you talking about? What am I doing? She goes, you were sitting on your ass playing these video games, and you've been doing it for weeks now. It was only like 4 weeks. That's, for me, it's an eternity. And she said, you need to get a job. I said, honey, I got money. I'm just relaxing. She goes, you need to get a job. This is a long process. You got to start putting yourself out there. And I was like, it pissed me off at first because I'm like a grown man. I run my own show, and I've always been successful. But she was seeing something that I wasn't seeing, and that is that the market was really bad. And I shouldn't be sitting there goofing off and giving up. I should be out there passing out my resume. So I started passing out my resume for that 6 months. For about 6 months while building this new platform that I'd also been incubating on for about 3 or 4 years. So I'm writing that to kind of cover my butt and make money. But I started putting my resume out there, and I'm telling you right now, Up to 2002, I had had about 5 interviews my entire lifetime, and I had had 5 jobs, where I wasn't referred to or something. But when I put my resume out there, I had this one headhunting agency in LA that placed me all the time. Even though I was in the Bay Area, he'd say, here's the job, go. Now, I got myself multiple jobs outside of that guy, but of the ones that I got interviews, I got every single job. And so now I'm passing out my resume. My knowledge is at the absolute peak of all cloud technology, super server technology. I mean, I had got to play with $300 million worth of toys with a group of about 900 people at EA headquarters, passing around and I was the top engineer of the whole thing. And we had another guy on the other side who was doing more of the back-end stuff, solving some really incredible problems. So there's no problem with the resume, no problem with my qualifications, no problem taking an interview. But you know what? I can't remember getting a single reply from any of my submissions. Nothing. Not a phone call, no interviews, no nothing. It was the implosion before the war, right? They need to make sure all the ghetto kids have no choices but to join the military. And then we kicked off, Operation Banker Loan. So I've been there. It's demoralizing if you take it personal, if you put it into the perspective of doom and gloom. But the thing is if you can look in the mirror or even lay down in bed in the morning where you're trying to drag yourself out and in your heart of hearts you're a good person and you're talented and you have skills, think about it this way. For every job that you don't get, well, obviously it wasn't a good fit. So what do you want to do? Go work for a place that can't appreciate your skills? That don't need your skills or whatever? Fuck no. You don't want any of that. You're basically being postponed until the right job comes up. And then, boom, there's a fit. After that 2002 thing for me, I ended up doing a bunch of weird contracts, building some sites and surviving. Got rid of all my credit cards, which was good. And then, I think I've already told this story. We worked for a guy. He kind of screwed us. We eventually, resolved it. And then I started a video game company out of thin air in this house right here. We picked our name for our video game company merely because the domain was available and we thought it would be easy to tell people. I made one little mistake there, but we proceeded to make millions of dollars and had all the biggest clients in the world for what we did, which was Flash games and Flash multiplayer platforms. It was great. Had a blast. I mean, absolutely had a blast. And it was our invention from nothing. Took no money from anyone, self-financed the whole thing, and did great. But if I had sat around and got into the negativity of the situation, it would have never occurred. So now here's the second technique. The second technique I'm getting into is really sort of getting in people's faces just a little bit more than I used to, and in a friendly way. But people are just, and I got an episode coming about this, which is capitulation. And it'll probably come out after this, but it's going to get a number. But they sit there and they get so inundated by things. And, the best way to brainwash someone is repetition? Holy Christ. I've got friends of mine that would say that and laugh and scoff. Ha, ha, ha. Those stupid people get all brainwashed by repetition. And then they sit there and cower down to repetition. Unbelievable, man. Just, it's funny because your aperture to the world right now, the way that you see reality right now is through a bunch of fake news with big names that have, credibility bought into them. CNN will most likely never recover. They will never, ever change their internal news reporting, editing mechanisms to ever tell the truth ever again. They're in a fucking death spiral. They were in a death spiral before the election, and now they are absolutely sort of an embarrassing extension to TMZ. At least TMZ just says, "Look, we're entertainment here. We're always nudging people, making jokes." So if you look at that website, you're looking for entertainment. There's a huge bias in it, but whatever. You know what you're getting into. No one's trying to say that stuff's, 100% accurate. It's a bunch of opinion. Well, fine. But news organizations are supposed to be dead on. Now, again, you can buy articles on the front page of Fox News. You can buy articles on the front page of any .com news organization on planet Earth. None of them are unique. RT.com, which is, the Russian one. Look at the fucking ads they saw on that site. You can find Loch Ness Monster Gallery ads on the front page, and we're supposed to take that seriously. I think at times TMZ has more integrity in their ads on the front page than RT.com does. And yet RT's, supposed like this alternative way of seeing great news. And it's really sad because I think they have some great folks on the payroll that are doing great journalism. But my God, they insult the whole franchise on the front page of their website. And no one seems to notice. So my buddies are looking through these apertures and trying to take in the world using all this fake news. And, YouTube's, Christ, if YouTube's even a double digit in the truth realm anymore, I'd be shocked. They have figured out this is the number one artery that people are waking up. And so it is saturated with just crap. There doesn't seem to be any policy about putting a girl in a bikini on a thumbnail and claiming that it's something that's attractive to people, and you click the button, it's just a test pattern for 5 minutes, and they're charging pre-ad roll for it, right? No censorship for those guys, but if you so much as mention 9/11 on a episode and put it in the title, they can strike your video from generating revenue because you're mentioning the historical relevance of terrorism in our world, and they say you're profiting from terrorism. Meanwhile, kids can be in bathrooms slinging fake turds around on people and fake, used tampons on people, and they can run a 2-minute ad in front of their videos. That's the censorship right now in the world, right? But I mention this because I want you to see how absurd what you get online is turned into. And so if you're trying to adjust your perspective and gain a perspective of your reality through anything online, you're going to fail. There's no way to do it. I think that one reason why this particular show has appeal is because each subject I cover, I'm trying to peel off the layers of the onion skin, and you and I together in conversation look at each layer of the onion skin and go, I don't know. Look at that. Doesn't really look like an onion to me, does it? Oh, is this a worm right here? We're always peeling things apart and analyzing them. And then there's always the disclaimer, you must research anything that you tend to believe that I say. You have to. And I think it's, if you're a truther, it doesn't have to attach to any one particular agenda, but if you are a truther, you're a person that has awakened that the world has become, over millennia, a place of utter deceit, where the winners write history. And we're tired of that shit. We are not benefiting from the revisionistic history. We are developing perpetual enemies, while those who are at the top with the most money and the most power, thusly, are all buddies at the tippy top. Well, we need to be buddies down here too. We need to be a family down here. We need to be sort of a species of friends down here. Human race. That's the only race that's here, right? As it's been popularized over the last few decades. That's the only race that exists that you need to worry about. So what I'm doing today, more often than not, is stopping people. When they go into that doom and gloom loop, I stop them and I say that's, paraphrasing the subtext of what I say, instead of trying to recreate a particular situation with a particular friend or an acquaintance that I happen to run into. I just simply say, stop thinking like that. You owe it to yourself to think better thoughts. And if you think that this universe is somehow on autopilot and there's nothing you can do to make your life better, you're wrong. Everything that could possibly happen from this moment forward is happening right now. We're just in this slice of the Mandela effect, right? I think you can probably prove that pretty scientifically. So why are you picking the next second that sucks? You know, there's a lot of people that came through the smoke lounge that I frequent. And I had guys, you know, they were talking about the election, and they just simply said, you know, this corrupt person's going to win because they're going to throw the election. You know that corrupt person's going to win. You know she's going to win. Blah, 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 blah. It's just the way it works. And they were completely convinced that there was no other option. And I just told them, I said, why would you think like that? Put the 22 in your mouth and pull the fucking trigger if that's what you think. Because as far as you're concerned, the whole world's just over. Why go on living, right? As Dennis Miller would say. And obviously the answer is not, you know, the intention is not to make anyone go off and blow their brains out. The intention is to wake up, because I'm talking to men. You know, females, you guys are more plugged into your right side of your brain. You're more emotional. I can see how there could be a feedback loop of concern. But honestly speaking, gals, of the ones I've talked to, you have been as centered, if not more centered and stable. You know, I don't hang out with social justice warriors, so exclude that bunch. But of the ones that have the normal level-headed mind, you guys are more certain about hope and things, you know, through, I shouldn't say hope because it's a bullshit emotion, but I don't know. I seen the females were more stable. Let's just put it that way. And the men were hysterical. You can't pull out your man card and say, you know, I'm a tough, rough motherfucker, and then just whimper into this fake news paradigm of complete horseshit. Doom and gloom is not the eventuality of any man. Doom and gloom is someone who's given up, someone who's whimpering, someone who's effeminate. Why do you think men protect women? Because women are supposed to keep those emotions open, the bloom of emotions open, and be more sensitive to the waves of negativity than we are, right? Because they are taking care of children. They are taking care of the budding new generations of this world. It's the hardest job on planet Earth. And you know what? They can't do their job if us men don't get in there and defend them. I didn't see a bunch of women fight the Revolutionary War. But guess what every man went to war for? Their women, their sisters, their mothers, their wives. To protect a whole generation from those fucking monarchs across the pond, you know? You know, I've had a few friends of mine who were bartenders or bouncers. And, you know, there's obviously bouncers that are guys that shouldn't be bouncers. You know, they're big, tough guys that just want to get in fights. Those aren't the ones I'm talking about. I'm talking about the ones that are your calm, collected, sort of Clint Eastwood type guys, but they're for real. He's probably for real as well. But these dudes never had a camera pointed at them. And when little punk-ass kids would come and try to test themselves out, which, you know, they're going through a disjointed rite of passage, they get themselves all excited, start punching each other at some venue. And my buddies would come in there and, you know, try to suggest that they calm down a little bit, trying to get them to grow up and see a different perspective, even though they're wasted somehow, you know, something. When it came time to straighten things out, because these kids weren't going to revise their methods, you know, my friends distributed. I got one buddy of mine who took on like 7 guys at a bar and had them all knocked the fuck out in a couple seconds, and then he paused and he went right back to being a calm, cool guy. In fact, while he was doing his job, he's a badass from Dublin, Ireland, and he just looked down at him and he's like, all right, get the fuck out. And these kids were from Ireland too. It was kind of funny, at an Irish bar. He was embarrassed. He was embarrassed that he grew up and they didn't. He's older than them, but he certainly sent him home with something to remember him by, something to remember their bad decisions by. But part of it was they needed to grow up, and the other part was that they were endangering all the females at the bar. Well, what's the difference between a bar and real life? What's the difference? You have to coexist with other people, and you have to behave, and you have to be productive in society, and some shit gets hard, and some is easy. And we all get sucker punched when things are good. A lot of us start taking it for granted, of course, you know? And because the thing is like, let's just say that you're broke for a really long time, and then you come into some money, and you spend it wisely, but you're definitely spending. And let's say it continues for months. Things are good. Maybe a couple of years, maybe a decade. You're feeling good. And then it gets bad. And then all of a sudden, you go into sort of an immediate death spiral in your own brain. Oh my God, things are going to be horrible. Well, one, that's why you save some money for a rainy day. Or if you're going to blow every dime you make, you better expect a harder landing as you sell the landing gear on your 737 of life, right? And you come in for that landing and it's going to be a little rough. But heroes are characters that make good decisions under pressure. I'm unaware of anyone who's standing on an unemployment line just dies because they don't have a dime. There's always someone who'll give you some food, always a place to find shelter. Most of us have friends. Some of us have family. Yeah, you might not be able to live in Bel Air anymore. But you know what? If you wake up, you're going to survive for another day. And where you could be a year from now could be someplace you can't even imagine. Remember that guy that was the homeless dude who had that incredible radio voice? And he would raise his money by standing at an island between two traffic directions, and he would do what they all do, catch you while you're waiting for the red light, and he would use his voice, and he had a pitch, just a fake radio pitch. And he'd get a lot of money because he was entertaining. And then someone noticed him from a radio station, I believe, or a television station or something. And they filmed him, put him on YouTube, and kaboom, he became super well known, right? Well, his life is completely different now. He has a job now. He's a spokesman for Kraft cheese. He's got all kinds of gigs. His voice is like leather. Now, think about the differential between the day he got put on YouTube to 1 year later when he had a job. He had brand new teeth put in his mouth. He started eating. And he went through a lot of weird emotional, reunions with his family. His family really lost faith in him because he had been hooked on drugs and he kept going in and out of drug use. And he even had a relapse after he got discovered. But now I saw him recently and he managed to smooth it all back out. It's pretty hard when you've been hooked on drugs. You're broke as a joke and you make a lot of money. I imagine that pole to use again is pretty heavy. But he pulled back out. But everyone's, human. I should say, too, it was an act of kindness by a lot of other people that helped him out. You should be that person, too. If you're up, maybe you can use a little bit of your time and a little bit of your money to help those who are potentially struggling, whether you know them or not, right? I at times have been very captivated by some YouTubers out there, probably the last 5 years, from time to time. And I watch their materials, and I'm watching the ads, and they're making a couple pennies off me watching an ad before their thing rolls. And a couple of them have run into some hardships, and they were able to share it on YouTube. And I made donations, significant donations to some people, because I wasn't in the red, I was in the black. And I watched them recover in the next YouTube videos, right? Talking about exactly how the money was spent, who gave money. Didn't talk about how much, which is great. I sent $100 to one guy, and he said, I can't even believe this. It's the biggest donation I've ever had in my entire thing on YouTube and the thing I do in the real world. And he says, my car just broke down, which was making it impossible for me to go down and do what I do. He's an entertainer, like a street entertainer. He has another job, I'm sure. But he said I was able to get the car fixed with your donation to other people. So stuff can happen. But this is how we work together as a village, which is much bigger now because it's all global, right? But I engage now. I gauge people and I say, stop thinking like that. Tony Robbins has a great thing that I mentioned a couple times. He says you can act your way into feeling better a lot easier than you can feel your way into acting better. And what he means by that is you can pretend life is better and get yourself to that frequency of repairing your life a hell of a lot easier. You can wait for life to repair itself while you're feeling negative about everything. But if you have to understand that mechanism. You have to believe in it, right? I'm going to mention something very specific that a friend just said to me recently on this note because it frustrates me. He was talking about doom and gloom, and he is one of many in my life that have been uttering this kind of statement recently to me. And again, what they want to have happen, the guy that, they wanted Donald Trump to be president, and he's president, and we watched the videos of what he does, keeping up all of his promises as fast as he possibly can, and everybody's cheering in the room, everyone's great, and then these guys will turn around and say, I don't know, the whole world's going down the tubes, and da-da-da. I'm like, where the fuck do you go from everything's great to everything sucks? How does that happen, right? So something else is going on. And so I said, well, why are you doing that to yourself? Like, why are you thinking like that? You got to stop talking like that. And he said to me, well, have you seen, have you read Revelations? I'm like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything? Every single generation that has existed on planet fucking Earth since that thing was written by the Flavius family has thought that it was going to be the end of the world, has thought that Jesus was coming back tomorrow. I have friends that think he's already here, and he's just, this is the 1,000 years of fucking doom and gloom. Christ, doesn't make any sense at all. I forgot to mention, because one of the commenters, and I forget your exact name, but I want to thank the commenter who said, the Flavius family, it's the typology, which is the retelling of a story in a more grandiose sense. If I took your life story and I retold it in a Western setting, and then I embellished everything, and it's like if you let's say you get in a fist fight at a local bar, and you're just drinking Bud Light and you get in a fight, I would rewrite that story in a different time, and it was a gunslinging fight, and you were pulling 2 Colt 45s out and shooting 10 guys right between the eyes without even looking, that kind of thing. That's how I would rewrite your life to make you more intense. And the thing is that you got in a fight when you were 22, and I told the story that this gunslinger got into a fight at 22. That's how you typology someone's life. So Dr. Atwell has done a tremendous amount of research over 25 years, specifically looking at Titus Flavius's super documented life in stone and papyra, and then comparing it to Christ's life that wasn't documented until 350 years after Titus Flavius's death. The Flavius family is also credited with assembling the Old Testament. And the gotcha there is that people go, well, there's no way, if Titus Flavius lived right around 35 BC into the ADs, no way, because the Old Testament's older than the Flavius family. It's like, no, they just fucking backdated the story, people. That's all they did. They took all the mythos of the world and combined it into one story and then made this devilish arc that, we're all sinners. So anyway, what frustrates me is that the Bible, in its most obtuse sense, is supposed to resolve any form of doom and gloom for anyone who especially believes it. It is the last thing that if there were a creator that gave his son up for all of our sins would want the Bible to do, is make anyone sit around their living room, depressed and feeling like the world's unsolvable, right? So it just further pisses me off about that book. The people get that from that book. Now, again, it may not be the book's fault. Someone could read, Catcher in the Rye and come up with the similar sort of rebellious thing. It was a piece of fiction, people. Meant to entertain. The Bible, if nothing else, is meant to pass on ways of behaving in society. I had it described to me, which I think is quite accurately, one of the interpretations of religion of all kinds was that before religion there was law of the jungle. Before people combined efforts in tribes and said, look, we're no longer going to take shit from the biggest guy. We're all going to go after that dude. Just like we go after the woolly mammoths and take them down as Homo sapiens. Any fucking Goliath walking around our village trying to screw our women and try to kill us guys because he has a big club, we're going to stone him to death. We're going to chop him into little pieces. And if you happen to spawn some big kids that we think are going to have problems, good luck. Now, some of you, I'm going to go off a little off the rails here because I'm at 50 minutes right now for myself. After I pull out some pauses, it'll probably be a little less. So I'm going to go off on... So I'm going to go off the rails a little bit here because there might be something else subdermal to our personalities that is affecting our ability to feel positive. Okay? And this is going to sound a bit like a broken record, but hopefully with a slightly different spin so it's tolerable hearing it one more time. There's really two sides of the coin. There's the toxification of the human body. You fill your body with toxins, and you don't feel so hot, right? Now, sometimes it can be you eat a bunch of crappy food you know you weren't supposed to eat. Your body's fine, but you're just depressed that you gave in to your cravings and you ate, 3,000 calories worth of, peanut butter parfaits, Your body image, as much as they're trying to teach everyone that being absolutely obese is so cool and so reverable, I just made that word up. How you like that? It affects you. It affects your perception. You cannot be in a physical state of being and convince yourself, a physical state of being that robs you of your mobility, right? You can't get in a situation where you can't run anymore because your knees can't take it. You fall asleep sitting up because you have too much weight on you. When I gained 25 pounds over the last, between probably the age of about 35 to 44, I was miserable. I could just sit in my living room, fall asleep, sitting straight up. It's horrible. I started snoring for the first time in my life. And then I lost 25 pounds. I just made a decision. This is utter bullshit. And the year later, I worked out so much I was, super monstery, right? So there's self-abuse through depression, food being a source of positivity. Again, it's a very short-lived, almost hoarding algorithm of positivity, right? Hoarders want to buy the item with the vision of what they could do with it, and they take it home and leave it in the bag and put it in the front room with their 8-foot piles of other bags, right? When you eat food for pleasure, that's exactly what you feel. A tiny surge of positivity to satiate a few seconds of your life. Basically how fast it's jammed into your mouth, and then as soon as you're done, you feel like shit. Sugar is one of the biggest enemies of the human body. It just is. In addition to that, we have obviously tons of toxified foods. All the GMOs are everywhere. Fluoride's in every beverage dispenser in the world, unless you're at a place that says we fluoride filter stuff out. It's horrible. We all ingest it all the time. You have to bring your own water all the time. You could never drink a Coke, right? You can't drink an iced tea. I don't care if you go to a fine, I don't care if you pay $50 for a glass of tea. Unless it says it's filtered out all the bad stuff. There's filtering, and then there's filtering. We have radio frequencies bombarding our body constantly. I told you that if you smoke cigars and you're going into a smoke depressed, it'll make you more depressed. It just augments the frequency that you're at. When I'm doing this show, I'm opening my mind constantly. I'm seeing a timeline in my head, of beginning, middle, and end, and all little sections in between. And for me, it's opening my brain to the empirical knowledge I get out of the universe, the Gnostic knowledge I gain from just existing and plugging into the universe on a daily basis. But I've largely detoxified my entire body over 10 years. It's probably now 12 years. So even though I can't keep all the GMO out of my body, I can't keep all the fluoride out of my body, it's way, way down. I don't stuff it in my mouth when I brush my teeth. I don't drink it at home. I don't even shower in fluoride water. Everything's filtered in my house. Now, on the super extreme conspiracy, we know that there are inventions out there that could potentially sway our emotions. I'm going to leave that out of this particular episode, but there are chances that there are other things that could contribute to your emotions. But I think the biggest one that I'm seeing has nothing to do with huge conspiracies. I think it just simply has to do with repetition. There's about 350 million people in the United States of America, right? I think it's just a little shy of that. Out of all the protests going on in this country, was it maybe 1 million? And I think those numbers are largely exaggerated, and especially if you had to interview anyone as to why they're holding a sign, it'd be a fraction of that percent. that know anything about what they're doing. But what makes the news? The protests make the news. So if you focus on that, you might think that the fabric of society is completely screwed. I'm not seeing that. When I interview people and talk to people, I shouldn't say interview, but when I talk to people and kind of get their feelings on things passively without them even knowing, people are happy. People are positive. Yeah, they're not stupid. They know what's going on. They know their neighbors don't agree sometimes, but they also don't take to arms. They don't shout at each other over a fence, Just keep quiet, keep to yourself. And you know what? I think a lot of people are uncertain about what they actually feel right now. They have some instincts because they know they have limited information. And so they're still processing. Law of attraction is a massive reality, all right? You have to pick a better second every second of your life. I'll tell you a little secret of my life about making the phone ring outside of just having a positive opinion about things that are going on, right? Again, if I pass out my resume and I don't get any responses, that means I didn't find the right place for me to work at. I got to keep knocking on doors if that's the stage I'm in. If I go to an interview and I'm like, wow, I really dug this place, but they didn't hire me. Well, that just means that they don't get me, and why the hell would I want to work at a place where they don't get me? It's not up for me to go in and challenge people to understand what I have to give them. Because I know that when I've done 9-hour interviews before. I was coming in as a manager and I had to meet all my peers, my supervisor, and all the employees that I was going to be taking over management for. And I had to convince them all that we got along, that the skill sets were there, the mentorship was there. How do I handle, hot situations? What do I do to keep morale up? How do I keep people educated? The whole 9 yards. And I got the job. The other thing is that sometimes we hate change, right? We're afraid of change. Now, there are changes that are definitely changes that we don't want to go through, but sometimes it leads to a beautiful place. It's funny how many religious people will talk to me about that eye of the needle analogy. It's easier for a camel to walk through an eye of the needle than a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. Boy, I wonder who wrote that fucking line. Stay poor, people. But let's say that you don't have a job, you don't have money, and the only place you can get it is somewhere else than where you live. Maybe it's a big commute. Maybe you got to move. No one would wish that on anyone, right? But when you have dignity and you have a job and you're being valued no matter where you go, it's going to be disorienting at first, and then you're going to be oriented and you're going to feel good. And if you want to be back to where you were, whether it be a geographical location or a particular vocation, well, you use that little job as a stepping stone. Probably not very smart to walk in the interview and say that. Probably not good to tell your peers, I'm only working here until I get a better job. Don't say that. Keep that shit to yourself. One, you're going to doom your own enjoyment because you got to live in this world. 2003, I told this story a long time ago, but just to make sure your humble narrator does not believe that there's any job below me. I was at a point where my savings was running out. This is before I finally launched into something very productive for myself. My buddy owned a restaurant. I finally just started bussing tables. He didn't ask me to. I just did it. Then I started helping out all over the restaurant, all the promo material. I was cooking, taking care of customers who were waiting for their food when we got slammed. I, talk with them, explain what's going on. Everyone appreciated it. Got big tips for everybody because they said, well, at least you communicated with me. My food took an extra 30 minutes to make, which was kind of frustrating, but you were around every 10 minutes or so and sat down and talked with me. Not only talked to me about the food that's being delayed, but talked to me as a human being. But nothing was below me. In fact, I was enjoying it. And the money I made from that little tiny contribution was probably a few $100 a month, and it just took a little bit of edge off of my savings burning. So I'd do it again. If I ever got down to that point. It's what you make of it, man. Now, in terms of all the social justice warriors of the world, well, they aren't engaging in a sustainable model of existence, right? They are the entitled who have no jobs, have no education that's employable. And again, they're like cockroaches running around in the sunlight. And there's a bunch of people with big boots ready to squash them. And so, one, they're sort of an animal that won't take food, which is jobs, responsibility, and so they'll expire. They'll either literally die off, or their little formula of insanity will eventually eat their lunch so much they're going to have to capitulate to survive. And believe it or not, they're not a very big group in the world. They're just loud and obnoxious. And because the news is fake, the fake news is running out to those organizations and saying, let's film any protest in the world, because we'll make a YouTube video out of it and sell ads on our site for it, right? So you want to get around ads? I'll tell you a little trick. At least in 2017, you can go to a site called LiveLeak, which is largely sort of a shilly psyop joint. But if you're like, well, I heard there was a protest, and I want to watch the protest, and I don't want to be dinged with YouTube pre-roll ads, and I don't want to be dinged with CNN pre-roll ads. I don't want to give anyone any money just because I want to see what happened. Just go to LiveLeak, look up whatever you saw as the headline on the national news, and there it is. It'll be there. It got uploaded somewhere without ads, and you can watch it, take in the information, make your decision, and you won't be giving out any money to these shitty organizations, right? One of the things that has shaken out in my life, probably in the last 5 years or so, which is sort of an oxymoron from my spiritual mathematics, goes like this. My atheist friends tend to do better recovering from these moments of depression, these moments of being disenfranchised. They tend to do better recovering from it. And I don't know why, because they don't believe there's anything after this life. It's really strange, and perhaps that galvanizes them to get off their ass and make every moment count, because they don't think there's anything after this life. They don't believe in any soul, reincarnation, central consciousness in the universe. The next group is the agnostic. They don't know. They don't know what's out there, but they keep it open. They tend to do pretty good as well, because at least in their mind, there's a maybe. Most of my agnostic friends, this is what I am, we believe in a central consciousness. It's not much of a stretch for them to believe in reincarnation as an imperative to exist in an infinite plane of energy. But the people that seem to be most susceptible to doom and gloom in my life are religious people. And obviously in America, it's Christians. Now, I will say that the Mormons come over with big smiles on their faces. It's amazing how they manage to keep themselves on track and positive. It's really an interesting accolade for their sect of Christianity. But the standard flavor of Christianity, well, man, they pull that book out of Revelations and they just disintegrate internally. And let's think about how destructive it is to have that put together. And I'm going to give you an analogy for what I think it is. There's some of you that are sort of estranged from your family. You don't want to be estranged from your family. You actually love your parents, your brothers and your sisters, your aunts and your uncles. But for whatever reason, there was a switch in your life, either at birth or some point in your life, where either you weren't the favored child or somehow you lost favor by making some mistakes or whatever. And your loved ones wish you harm. They wish you to not succeed, or they simply do not care that you exist. Some of them left when you were young, some of them passed away when you were young, leaving you with a parent that perhaps doesn't favor you or have the ability to imbue you with love and purpose, confidence. And it feels like shit when that happens, right? I've been very fortunate in my own life. Full disclosure, I should say, I have not experienced this. But I've got plenty of friends who have. And I watch the destruction on their life when they say, all I wanted was love from my father, all I wanted was love from my mother. And they tend to hate the parent that won't love them, but in the, deep down inside, they really do love them, but they just say, you're an asshole for not acknowledging what a cool kid I turned out to be, I do know some kids that make that shit up on their own, and the parents actually love them to death, and for whatever reason, they need to be a little martyr in their own life, but whatever. Hopefully those are just stages for people. But now think about it. You're in a doom and gloom loop, or you know someone who's in a doom and gloom loop, and is basing that doom and gloom off of passages written in a Bible. So what does that really mean subtextually to the id? Not the character, not the persona, but to the deepest subconscious child in their heart and soul. They think God is spiting them. And my God, if you believed in a creator, you really believe in a creator, and you believe that you have to go through some fucking arbitrary phase of damnation simply for existing, how much worse does life get to believe horseshit like that? When I was heavy into Christianity and we were getting into the Revelations and getting into that mysterious sector of the Bible that describes the return of Christ, and what's phenomenal about that is I will sit and talk to people who claim to be major Christian scholars, and they are pulling shit out of their fucking hat that just has never been written down in any iteration of the Bible, and I go, where do you get this shit from? Oh, it's in there. I don't know where it is, but it's in there. And it's like, no, it's not. It's not fucking in there at all. In fact, if Christ didn't cover his own return, then you should just ignore everything else. But, they cite these weird books that don't exist, or books that someone wrote at some point. I went to the bookstore in 1990, 89, 90, and I was reading books about how Christ traveled all around the world. And of course, the Mormons believe that he came to America and all this other stuff. Just fucking fantasy, Santa Claus shit. Going all over the world and talking to every culture and blah, blah, blah. He had to keep secrets from his disciples, right? Never reveal this incredible, double life that he lived, right? I traveled the whole world. He never said he traveled the entire world in 4 books about him. I find that hard to believe. He never told a parable about what he learned in North America. Never a parable about what he learned in Tibet and India and Africa and South America. He just went to all these places and had all these incredible experiences and didn't learn anything worth repeating. Are you fucking kidding me? The common stories that I heard, which then I took them verbatim when I was ignorant, and I finally woke up and tried to find where this stuff was quoted. Was the return of Christ was either going to be 1,000 years of bliss and then Judgment Day, or it was going to be 1,000 years of torment and then Judgment Day. And then, of course, the meek would inherit the earth, and I guess all the rich people go to heaven, I always thought that was kind of funny. The meek shall inherit the earth. Okay. I guess if that's where you want to be for eternity, you can have it, right? What I'm trying to say is, be an adult. Use a little bit of logic, right? This cop-out that says, well, God works in mysterious. You couldn't possibly contemplate one thought of God. Yeah, I can. You know why? Because every thought I've ever had is the thought that God's had at one point in his life, if he exists. Sure, he might have bigger thoughts, of course, if he's maintaining every ethereal particle in the universe. He's got a pretty big memory. But to use God as a mechanism to feel utter and complete despair has got to be one of the greatest paradoxical ironies I've ever heard of in my life. God wants you to be miserable. Right. Yeah, that's God. 1,000 years of doom and gloom is one of the documented possibilities of the return of Christ. Well, then he would turn into the devil, wouldn't he? Where everything was great. I had a fucking great business and a wife and 5 kids, and everything was looking up. And then Christ shows up, and everything goes to hell. And then I know that for 1,000 generations of my family, of which will probably die out in 2 generations because of this doom and gloom nuclear war fucking battle with fake, angels of devil and blah, blah, blah. He's the reason why everything sucks. He's the reason why I got wiped out. And of course, the caveat is, well, but in Judgment Day, you'll be resurrected and then you'll go to heaven. It's like, yeah, great. My last fucking memory is, a mushroom cloud vaporizing everything that I love. And, at Judgment Day, it's all okay. Right. It's like a parent tormenting a child with scary movies and then saying, just kidding. What's really interesting is I just watched a little panel in some talk show or something, or some news opinion show in Europe about the election in France. And what was very interesting about it is that these individuals sitting around a table were pretty open about one of the political strategies of one of the candidates, or I should say, one of the mechanisms that candidates can use to manipulate the vote in France. And it was fear and anger and hate and every negative emotion in the negative spectrum of human psyche. That was how this individual, and they were accusing one guy, I think, of tapping into that, even one of the women tapping into that. But what did we just have in America? What just happened here? We had a campaign run on nothing but emotional juice. No issues ever mentioned at any stomps, except to start World War III. That was one of the only things that was a policy that was going to be instantiated, and the other dude became president and dared to utter issues as a pure platform. Never mentioned anything about, hating someone else or, getting into this emotional spin stuff. It was like, look, our lives have a functional layer to them before they can have an emotional layer to them, right? We couldn't sit around and worry about our emotional mindset when your life expectancy was constantly threatened by the elements of the universe, right? Watch some of these prison shows on Netflix and you'll get a really good sense of there's a way you live in jail, there's a way you live in prison. And it's, what is it? It's just no sympathy. You have no sympathy for the other guy. Why? Because you can't survive if you do, is the perception. It's because it's law of the jungle in those joints. And some prisons are really, really rough. Some jails are super duper rough. The difference being jails where you sit before you're convicted and prisons where you carry out your sentence. Some people have been in jail for, up to 10 years because they haven't been sentenced yet. They might get sentenced to 2 years or they might be acquitted, but they've spent 10 years in jail. I'll tell you what, man. When I was a kid, it was all about scared straight, right? Taking urban kids and putting them through prisons and scaring the living shit out of them. And for the 70s, it really worked. But I tell you what, you watch these shows today and you ever thought about creating or committing even a petty crime, watch yourself about 8 shows, where these guys go into prison. Some of these guys live in prison as documentary dudes. I mean, they live in the cells with these prisoners, and some guys just do a deep dive and study and talk to these individuals. We need to help our fellow citizens from having to commit crimes to exist. And we have to get them off drugs so they don't keep getting these petty crimes and going in for stupid stuff, right? Crimes are necessary when society's broken. Some of these guys will do things simply to feed their families. Some of them do them because they're so on edge that the slightest bit of disrespect in the normal world turns into a fatality, confrontation, right? There goes their life. Consequently, if you thought your life really sucked, but you're a free person, you should watch these shows to straighten yourself out and realize, well, at least you have freedom. And what's interesting about it is, there's this revolving door reality to prisons and jails where once someone goes in and remotely feels comfortable with the environment, they no longer fear it anymore, and so committing a crime is really sort of going back to a different home. But every time they go in and they're asked, are you coming back? When they're in the thick of it, they usually 99% of the time say, no way am I coming back to this. Now they end up relapsing a lot of times, but while they're in, they have a clear mind, and when they pop out, some of them start using drugs or they start being reintroduced to the trials and tribulations of life because our world is broken. Our society is broken. We're broken mentally. We're broken financially. We've allowed these pasty guys to control the world through money, through how it's valued and how we fight wars to keep them, collecting the loan debts from countries. That's what wars are all about. Keep talking about Titus Flavius. Well, one of his giant contributions to society was the Colosseum. Go look up the Colosseum, the Roman Colosseum. Just look it up in Wikipedia. It's credited to Titus Flavius, the man who created the ultimate distraction. And he just formalized it in marble, but it had been going on for centuries before then, probably millennia. Kings and queens have written for centuries that they've created wars to simply keep the eyeballs off them, a unified enemy that is not the monarchy. Because as soon as they get peacetime, they realize how shitty their life is compared to the monarchy, and they tend to go up and chop their heads off like they did in France, right? That never solves a problem. That just creates job openings, right? Now, I've got episodes about, getting back up and that kind of thing. I have another episode coming out, which is sort of a duplicate, talking about taking charge, which is a slight switch on the action model of how you take care of these situations. So I'll try to get those out as soon as possible. But one of the biggest things you can do to yourself, and this is, for some people, it's totally normal, and for some of you, it's wacko, which is talk to yourself and tell yourself it's going to be okay. Do it. And say it in a sincere voice that you would use on your own child. Imagine a kid who's 20 years old. They lived a pretty straight life. But they go to college at 18. They complete a couple of years. But man, that second year, they're struggling. For whatever reason, they don't have to be in drugs or have bad friends. It's just school's kicking their ass. Perhaps they chose a major that's a little over their head, or there's just no passion model behind it. So they're just disoriented. And they fail. They fail college. Well, from that kid's perspective, they go into a state of utter panic, especially if they believe their parents have no tolerance for such things. Now, as a parent, you have to keep the pressure on to help them get through those tough areas. But you know that as soon as your kid fails college, they need your help. Now, obviously, you could say, well, they need your help financially, but in the end, the thing they most need is your mental support. They need to have you walk in the room when they're just terrified you're going to kill them. Or, a lot of kids will say, my parents are going to kill me, On one level, they've never been there before, so they don't know what you're going to do. They don't even know what's legal. Maybe they think it's legal for you to kill them if they fail college. But what they really need you to do is sit down with them at home or at a restaurant or wherever. You need to be calm and cool and loving. To look your kid in the eye and just say, don't worry. It's going to be okay. We'll get through this. Maybe the major you picked was just not what you were interested in. Maybe you need to travel the world a little bit, hitchhike across whatever country you're in. If you're in Europe, man, you can hitchhike all over the place. Maybe you got to do some odd jobs, But you're going to be okay. I still love you. I'm here for you. I can't support you financially. Even if I could, I'm not going to. I'll give you maybe some survival money, but that's about it, because you have to have the mother of invention to go find what it is you're supposed to do in life. But just know, when you think about me, thinking about you, that better be a big tidal wave of love, because that's what it is every single day we're not together. Your parents love you. We support you. Now let's figure out what to do with your life. Let me apply my resources to you, your resources to me. Maybe you can come work for the family. Maybe I can get you a little job off to the side. But I can help you get any job in the entire world. Be there. Stop the hemorrhaging in society, right? Doesn't have to be something as petty as college. It could be your kid's getting a divorce, going through some tough times. I grew closer to my parents as an adult than I ever did as a child. It was this simple stuff. It was just simple statements like that. Well, I'm sure you'll be okay. You always are. Those little statements, man, sometimes they hit you at the right time. And, you'd be like, I can't pay my bills. But I just talked to my mom, and, she just kind of talked me through it. Could be a good friend. What are friends if you don't do something to earn the accolade of that description, of that classification as a friend? I know you feel me on this. I feel like it's useful to have it drilled in through different perspectives. If you're alive, there are very few faux pas in life that can kill you, right? So what, you can't get a job? Definitely go get unemployment if you can. Don't be prideful. You pay into this shit anyway. But just realize, if you went to a bar or you went to some social gathering and you're trying to find a mate and you talk to everyone in the room and you don't find the right person, what are you going to tell yourself, the whole world is incompatible with you? Hell no. You're just going to say, well, this crowd wasn't my crowd, or maybe I was off my game. But the last thing you want to do is grab the wrong person. A long time ago, my friends and I made the decision, it's better to be alone for the rest of your life than be stuck with the wrong person for the rest of your life. Because you can get really comfortable in your own skin. It's usually a few, difficult months to get to that moment, but in the end, believe me, you can wake up and go, "Damn, I'm ruling my own destiny." And as soon as you start ruling your own destiny, thus getting confident, and as soon as you don't care if you have a spouse or someone that you want to partner up with, that's when they show up, because you just exude that awesomeness. The only difference is that when you get with them, don't turn into a complete coward and wrap your life around theirs. They're attracted to you because you have your own life. That's why they want to be with you. It's because you have confidence and you have a mission. So don't change. Stay who you are. Easier said than done in some cases, but if you're running into that problem, keep that in mind. It's an old saying that my friend's mother told her. She said, because she would date these guys and they would be really attracted to her confidence. She's a beautiful girl as well and very smart. But she has this confidence, and her mother told her, look, of the guys that you've dated that have not worked out, the formula that they keep doing is they're attracted to your flame, but then they try to put out your flame as soon as they get with you, right? They try to mold you and control you once they get around you. You got to make sure that never happens to you. Now, let me just button this up with one little thing here. One thing you need to do for yourself is monitor your mood swings. You're the only one that knows whether or not you have mood swings or not for real. Now, your loved ones also are pretty intimately aware of this too. I guess I shouldn't say it that way. Maybe your loved ones know if you're having a physical condition, the food that you eat, whatever, the addictions that you have to various substances might change your state of mind and thus your happiness, right? Some people are really mean drunks. Some people are very violent drug users. Those are extreme cases. I think most of us know that already. But what I'm going to get at here is, if you find yourself, being furiously angry almost randomly throughout the day, and then you're completely calm the rest of the day, monitor that stuff. I've run into that in my life where my id was very frustrated with who I was, or at least the situations that I allowed myself to get into. And all of us have had those situations where we allow negativity to swell up. Comedians talk about this all the time. And then they wait for a moment, or just something happens, and it all bursts out, and you look like a total ass, right? What I do with that stuff is I monitor my mental feelings way closer than I ever did in the past. So I've said this in the past, but since we're right on the subject of doom and gloom, and we're talking about mechanisms to pull ourselves out of that permanently, if I am at my place here and I am feeling negative, something's just making my chest tight, or I'm having some sort of, the ship I'm passing in the middle of the night is some sort of depression or anger or something like that. It's never that acute, but it's just something I don't feel right. I stop what I'm doing, I get up, I take a break, and what I do is I pace my living room and I talk it out with myself. Why am I feeling this way? And then what I do is I review everything in my life that I think is great, and then I try to make that list of things that I think aren't great, and it's always a short list, right? And then I tell myself it's going to be okay. If I happen to find something that is quantifiable, something that's itemized on a piece of paper that is real, I go, oh yeah, well there's that. Well, that bill will get paid, or I'll say I'm sorry to that person, or reach out to this friend, or whatever the hell the thing is. And man, is that a huge recovery mechanism for any sort of emotional arc that I don't want to have in my life. And that takes the steam out of blowing up on someone else. And again, I've said this other thing before too, which is, let's say you're mad at a human being, and you, on one sense, you're at this point where you're breaking point where you're like, I need to call that person up, get in that person's face, and just lay it on the line. You feel totally justified in everything you're going to say. All right, well, pretend they're in the room and chew the fuck out of them. Say every acidic thing that you could possibly imagine saying. And I would say, go lose your mind. Don't break anything in your room, but lose your mind. Use language you would never use, and listen to yourself talk, and take a break every once in a while, and then restart and restart and restart. Just re-chew them out you can do this 10 times in a row. And I can almost guarantee you, by the time you're done, one thing has occurred. You have exhausted so efficiently out of your body, out of your soul, that negative energy, almost like you're expelling a demon out of your body. You're exorcising your own demon out of your body. That by the time you think about how that person would respond to what you said, you're embarrassed. If you believe you're being watched by any sort of creator, you're really embarrassed. But believe me, he understands that you just purged yourself outside of the earshot of anyone you would have done harm to. And what you've done is you've educated yourself on how absurd, perhaps, your emotions really were. And you will thank your lucky stars you never, ever blew up on that person. And even if you need to mention it, if you go through it 10, 20 times in your living room or wherever, in your car driving home from work, you'll probably be... You'll either do one of two things. I will guarantee you after 40, one of these techniques will be more prevalent than the other. One, you'll give up. You'll just say, man, that wasn't even worth it. It's me. It's me that's having a stupid perspective. And a lot of us, when we don't have access to someone's thoughts, we fill in for their thoughts. And a lot of times our emotions get out of control because we're dreaming up things that they're not thinking, things that they have never thought in their life. And that's very powerful, right? I used to do it all the time. I was really, really young in my teens. I would dream up someone, thinking a negative thought about me. They don't have those thoughts. And if you've ever been accused of something you've never thought of in your life, it's extremely maddening. I eventually found a way in my 20s to say to someone, someone would accuse me of thinking a negative thought to them or I don't know, doing them some sort of injustice. And I finally turned to someone. I can't remember who I first said it to, but man, it's a super effective statement. I just say to them, look, you sit them down and you put maybe a slight grin on your face to give them your love and your emotion and positivity. You go, look, I love you so much, or like you so much, depending on who you're talking to. You go, look, I have never had that thought or anything like that thought go through my mind towards anyone, let alone you. But I tell you what, if there was a list of people I could possibly have that emotion for, you're not on the list. You're not last on the list. You're not on the list at all. And boy, does it take the steam out of someone's sails, because if you can say it genuinely, which is the only way you want to say it, they'll believe you. But the thing is, you want to acknowledge somehow my behavior made you think that I could think such a thing. So let's talk about that, and I'll make sure that whatever I'm doing to make you think that I would think such an evil thought towards you, I'll do whatever I can to make sure you never have that assumption again. And about 5 years later, I had a different thing I would say, which is if I ever started a really successful relationship with someone, I'd sit them down and say, look, I'm not trying to create a blank check for myself. I'm not trying to create a get-out-of-jail-free card for myself. But I can tell you that right now, I so approve of you. I so love you. that if I ever do anything, say anything, or neglect to do something that I'm supposed to do in your mind that hurts your feelings, that I'm unaware that I have done that. And I'm being stupid. I'm being ignorant to, probably not stupid, I'm being ignorant to your needs and your emotions and the way you're interpreting things. So if that happens, I want you to bring it to my attention and say, well, remember when you said that if this happens, I need to bring it up to you? Well, this happened and it made me feel bad. And even if you think it's a petty thing and you think, wow, that's stupid that you thought that, don't say that. Be sensitive and just go, wow, okay. I totally didn't know that. There's things in my past that made me think this was acceptable behavior for everyone. Apparently that is a miscalculation on my part. I don't want you to feel that way. I'm going to now, from this point forward, try to make sure that never happens. But if I slip and do it, I'm going to try to catch myself, and I'll apologize to you for slipping and doing that. Okay, so I beat that up. Hopefully this little discussion was useful to you. Don't buy into doom and gloom for any reason on planet Earth. And I mean that literally. Don't buy into it for any reason on Earth. If you stare off into the horizon and there is an atom bomb that goes off metaphorically or literally, and you survive it, then you're alive. Which means you can do something different the next day. You can survive it. And you can find happiness in damn near anything, right? There's people who live in horrible circumstances all around the world, but they don't know it. So they don't know that they, by your standards, they're living in squalor. In their perspective, they have what they need. Maybe not everything they want. Anyway, I hope you dug the episode. If you like the series, please subscribe if you dig. If you like this particular show, please give me a thumbs up. Again, I'm on vid.me as well as YouTube. I'm on iTunes. And you can download the feed from deepthoughtsradio.com. Just click the little RSS feed. It will actually map your domain over to mkultraradio.com. Don't panic. That's just the kind of the mother channel that holds this particular show. We used to have a show called MK Ultra Radio. Please don't get that confused with this show. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/deepthoughtsradio. That's the Facebook feed for this. I don't pound it too much. I just really try to keep the episodes up. When I release a ton of episodes, I'm usually posting the most recent one at the top. If one gets a lot of views, I then put it on the actual web page itself, which will pre-roll if you're on a desktop, and you can click over to YouTube if you're on your mobile phone. Because nothing pre-rolls on a mobile phone through a web browser, right? Anyway, take care of yourself and someone else, and I will see you in the next Deep Thoughts. Over now.